every breath that I am able, I'll bring you praise. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only.
You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken.
Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. Yeah, can we do something? Can we all just take a deep breath? It's his breath in our lungs. In the last couple of weeks, I guess, reminded me of this truth that it is His breath in my lungs. That we worship a God tonight who breathed life into us. And not just so that we could walk about our day-to-day life. It's not just the story of creation that we're reminded of. Because we know that story. We know that God formed man out of the dust of the earth, and then He breathed in him the breath of life. But it's not just that. That wasn't the end of the story. It also is Jesus Himself, resurrected Jesus after the crucifixion, after His death. He shows up in the room with the disciples. And John tells us that He walked around and breathed on them. As if saying, hey, you're not just the old creation anymore. You're now a new creation. As believers in the perfect life and the perfect death and the perfect resurrection of Jesus Christ. And tonight we stand before God, new creations, with His breath in our lungs. And I think that, man, I forget that too often. In the way that I speak to other people, in the way that I use that breath to do whatever action or task might be in front of me, I forget that it's Him and His breath in my lungs. And I'm already talking longer than I meant to, but I'm just like thinking this, that in the Old Testament, well, actually still to this day, the Jews would not speak the name of God because they didn't want to take His name in vain. And so they had this name that we call now Yahweh, but there's no vowels in the Hebrew language. And so we've added vowels in. We don't actually know how to say that name. But there are some who believe that it's actually meant to mimic the sound of our very breath in and out. Yahweh, Vah-hey. It's His breath in our lungs. And so, in a crazy, divine way, He has assured that every person would proclaim His name. That the Psalm 150 verse 6 says, let everything that has breath praise the Lord. And that is true, because every creature that breathes speaks His name and brings Him praise. But we forget. And so often we think this breath is our own. But it's His breath in our lungs. And I want you to think about this. I'm going to ask Trevor and Micah to pass out some things, some sheets. We're going to go through this in little groups of family groups, family units, or groups of 3 to 5, something like that. You can break into little groups and do this. But before you start reading all of that and break into those groups, I want to say this one last thing. We find it, I think most of us find it very uncomfortable when we find ourselves feeling someone else's breath on us, or like when someone talks too close, we want to kind of back away. We don't like breathing in someone else's air. In fact, we save that kind of closeness most often for the people that are dearest to us. A spouse, a parent, a child. And with that in mind, I want you to consider that the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, the creator of this universe, wants to be so close to you that his breath would fill your lungs. That's the kind of love he has for us.